Right now, a hiring manager is staring at 200 resumes for the job you want. In 3 hours, they will delete 190 of them. They are not reading your resume. They're scanning it for 3 seconds flat and moving on. If yours looks creative and beautiful, their software doesn't even see a resume. It sees noise. But before I show you how to get past that filter, there is a viral trend right now that is getting the most qualified candidates instantly rejected. I'll show you exactly what it is in a moment. I'm spilling the tea, sharing recruiter secrets. What no one shares with candidates. The very information you need to find work now. I'm saving the most counterintuitive strategy for last, incorporating a negotiation strategy borrowed from an FBI hostage negotiator that got one candidate a 6-figure offer when she wasn't even the top choice. Stick with me to the end for a free step-by-step script to help you negotiate. I've worked with recruiters who say I should not share this with you. I disagree. This is exactly what you must have to get ahead, especially in a competitive market. This is your behind-the-scenes masterclass of recruiter secrets. I'm covering 5 game changers. And I'll tell you right now, the third one is the one nobody talks about. It's not your resume. It's not your LinkedIn profile. It's something almost every candidate skips entirely, and it's costing them. I'm Christy Williamson. I've been a professional recruiter for over a decade, reviewing resumes, walking candidates through the complete hiring process, placing thousands in jobs from coast to coast. There's a lot that goes into getting you the right job. Let's get into it. So, what gives? You've done everything right. Updated your resume for each job, applied to everything possible, talked to everyone you know who's hiring, and of course, asked your former employer, clients, and vendors for a referral. Here's the truth. It's not your fault. You're not the problem. What's wrong is that nobody told you the rules have changed. What used to work to find a new job doesn't work anymore. You need a different approach. If you don't know how to attract employers now, you'll always be swimming upstream. And what no one tells you when you're laid off for a long time, you find yourself starting to wonder if something's wrong with you. I've been on both sides of this. As an employee, I've been laid off too. As a matter of fact, my husband and I were let go at the same time by the same person. I remember feeling the shame and embarrassment of walking out in front of colleagues who knew what happened. I remember well the mental spiral at 2 in the morning, the need to start telling creative stories to friends about why you can't come to dinner or to events you've been planning for months. I've been there. On the other side in recruiting, I see what's happening on the employer profile of that job board you're looking at. I'll share what makes us stop scrolling and spend time with a resume. And what makes us move on in 3 seconds flat. When I was struggling to find a new job, I was looking for this exact information. How to understand what a hiring manager is really looking for. What they take into consideration when they weigh one candidate over another. What you need are the real strategies, the ones recruiters don't share with candidates. So, in this masterclass, I'm walking you through the exact strategies from my book, A Recruiter's Secrets, to show you what's actually working right now, giving you an edge in a competitive market, the must-have advantages to succeed. I'm showing you how to make your resume stop the scroll, what your most powerful interview tool is, how to make social media work for you, what it takes to interview like the top 1%, and that FBI negotiation strategy I mentioned. That last one. Stay till the end and you'll get a negotiation script template to use in your offer negotiation. Seriously, grab something to write with or your favorite notes app. You'll be glad you did. Revising your resume. This is the one thing most people I talk to think is their biggest problem, or at least their first problem to address. And honestly, more than half the time they're right. I have seen resumes lose candidates a position. But it's not for the reasons they think. Here's a behind-the-scenes snapshot of the world I work in every day, and what makes a resume stop the scroll. When a position opens up, even in a normal economy, I typically receive somewhere between 20 and 30 applications within the first few days. In this market, as layoffs are happening more and more, we have tons of candidates flooding the market. One recent posting got over 200 applications in 5 days. Over 200. When a position opens up, it comes with a deadline to fill the role. I'm often filling 7 to 12 positions at once, so multiply that by the number of positions. That's 1,400 to 2,400 resumes. To prepare for the first round of interviews, I have about a 3-hour block to get through the initial resumes and set these up for an initial interview. So, I'm scanning, not reading. You truly have 2 to 3 seconds to grab and hold my attention. That's it. After that, if something catches my eye, I'll spend about 7 seconds more. That's your window. That's the whole audition time a resume gets before I move on to the next one. The question isn't, is my resume good? The question is, does it stop the scroll in 3 seconds or less? Most don't, and here's why. First, 90% of resumes tell me nothing about you or what you did in your job. It's what costs most deserving candidates an invitation to an interview. Most resumes are a job description, showcasing little to nothing about your results or quantifiable accomplishments. I see resumes every single day that say things like, responsible for managing social media accounts and creating content. This is a perfect example of one which is really not telling anything. Anyone who has ever touched a social media account could write that line. Here's what will stop the scroll. Grew Instagram following from 2,400 to 18,000 in 6 months using strategic content planning and targeted engagement campaigns. Now I'm interested. I'm curious. I want to know how you did that. Now I'm picking up the phone. See the difference? One tells me what your job was. The other tells me what you did, what problem you solved, the results you achieved, and what it was worth. Second, most companies use software that scans your resume before a human ever lays eyes on it. And that beautiful, creative template you paid someone to design? The software reads it as complete gibberish. It doesn't see a resume, it sees noise. But here's what's worse. Even a perfectly clean resume gets buried on page 7 if it doesn't contain the exact words from the job posting. Not similar words, the exact words. I'm not getting to page 7. No recruiter is. There's a fix. It takes less than 20 minutes once you know it. I'll show you. But first, remember that viral trend I mentioned? That's getting very qualified candidate and instant rejection. That's the third resume mistake. It's the most recent resume trend, which will get pushed down or even completely rejected. Obvious AI-generated resumes are being passed over. If it gets past the ATS, we can still tell. Even the less obvious ones come across as AI-generated to someone who scans hundreds to thousands a day. A resume that sounds like it's written by a very polished, very corporate robot raises immediate questions about whether anything on it is accurate. The moment I question it, I move on. That's it. Now, there are AI tools that can help you. Put yours together, craft verbiage, structure, formatting, and more. But make sure you put this in your words. Make it sound like the best version of your professional self. Here's the deep secret. This one here is what even the 10% who do show results completely miss. To truly stand out and pique my curiosity, do not explain how you did something on the resume. Leaving that out is intentional. You want that curiosity. Now I want to know how you did it. You want us to sense a real need for a conversation with you, to know how you did it. Now here's the good news, and I mean genuinely good news. Everything that's broken about your resume right now is something that can be fixed. And the fix is faster than you think, because you're not starting from scratch. You work backward from what they're already telling you. I call this the reverse engineering strategy. And the starting point might be the one thing you've completely missed. Look at the job posting differently. A hiring manager isn't describing a job. They're telling you exactly what problems they need solved, line by line. Your resume needs to show how you solved that problem. The full strategy is in the book, but here's what I want you to feel right now. You're not starting from scratch. You're building the answer they already gave you. You can reverse engineer it so you know you're starting with what someone tells you they want. Once you have the job description, you can quickly craft one that stands out and grabs their attention. Knowing that your resume needs to show that you've solved that problem or similar ones. Reflect their language in your resume, organically using keywords and phrases from the posting. Make it sound genuine, polished, and professional. Use AI as a tool to help you, and then refine it, make it your own. Where you see responsibilities, think of this as a cue to show results in a bullet point. Remember, you must create that curiosity, so they want to call you as soon as possible. Like this. You're not posting responsibilities, but showing results. Numbers are the most effective way to show results. With this, you can give weight and context. Increased customer retention by 20% in 3 months. Reduced project delivery time by 15%, saving $50,000 annually. When I see numbers like that on the page, that person goes to the top of my call list. Every time. That's how you make your resume one of your strongest assets. Making it to the short list of candidates to talk with first. It's exactly what you want. This is how you make your resume a truly compelling one. The full strategy is in the book, but here's what's critical to know right now. A better resume is useless if you're sending it to the wrong companies. When I was laid off, I did what every candidate does. I applied everywhere. 25 applications in 1 week, 17 versions of my resume, and crickets. I wasn't doing it wrong. I was asking the wrong question. I was asking, what job do I want? When I should have been asking, who has to hire me right now? There is a specific signal I learned to watch for, something almost no candidate knows exists, that tells you a company doesn't just want to hire, they have to. That is exactly where we are going next. If your job search strategy right now consists of opening a job board, filtering by title, hitting apply, and blasting your resume to every open slot, stop! You're screaming into a void, treating the job market like a lottery when you need to treat it like a targeted corporate operation. Welcome to Section 2. Over the last 10 years as a senior recruiter, I have watched thousands of brilliant professionals remain unemployed for months simply because they target companies the wrong way. They approach an employer asking for a job instead of stepping in as a premium solution to a costly corporate crisis. Hiring managers do not open positions because they want to read your resume. They open them because they have an active, bleeding business problem that is costing them time, effort, customers, and revenue. If you do not know the exact pain point of the business and hiring manager is looking to solve, your application is dead on arrival. When I applied to everything and saw 0 results, my stress grew into complete overwhelm and a growing feeling that something was wrong with me. I applied what worked in the past and was confused when I didn't get results. That's when I realized I was completely asking the wrong question. In this video, I'm showing you the exact strategy that stops the exhausting cycle and gets you directly in front of hiring managers who actually need you right now. Let's go. Here's what I didn't understand then, and what I wish someone had told me. Chasing every job posting is not a strategy. It's a wish. The strategy that works shifted, and until you make a shift, you'll stay stuck. You have to change your question from what you're looking for to who you're looking for. This is why you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, exhausted, with nothing to show for it. Companies spend real time defining exactly who they want to hire. They know the experience level, the soft skills, every detail. But how many candidates take that same intentional approach to defining what they want in an employer? Almost none. When you don't know who you're looking for, you apply to everything. And nothing fits quite right. You feel it. But you keep hoping that you'll find a good company, one that feels like the perfect fit. When you're struggling and feel like you don't have the power to choose, desperation creeps in. It's understandable. You have bills piling up. But unfortunately, this desperation comes through even when you're trying to hide it. This sabotages you. Here's what changes when you build what I call an ideal employer profile, or avatar. You stop feeling like you're at the mercy of whoever will give you the time of day. You start showing up as someone who is selective, confident, someone who knows their value and is choosing where to bring it. That energy? Hiring managers feel it. It makes a difference before you say a single word. I'm sure you've been in a room when someone confident and charismatic walked in. The energy shifts. Everyone wants to be closer to him or her. That can be you. Here's where to start. Before you apply to another job, answer this one question. Where have you done your best work? And what made that environment different? That answer is the beginning of your ideal employer profile. The full framework is in the book, but that one question? Start there tonight. But knowing who you want to work for is only half of it. The other half is knowing when to move. And there is a specific signal, one that almost no candidate is even aware of, that tells you a company does not just want to hire, they have to. Here's one to start watching for right now. Companies that have just raised funding. When a company closes a significant funding goal, they now have an obligation they can't fulfill with their current team alone. They have to hire. Do this today. Set a Google alert for your industry plus funding round. Today, not someday. That one step puts you significantly ahead of most candidates applying to the same openings. The book covers 2 more strategies just like this one. This is your advantage, and most candidates aren't even looking here. Knowing who you want to work for changes everything. It impacts how you show up, on paper, on social media, and walking into a room. Now here is something that surprised even me when I put it together. The single most powerful thing you have going into an interview has nothing to do with your resume or your qualifications. The hiring manager has already read your resume. They already know your credentials. That is not why they called you in. What they are really deciding, and almost no candidate knows this, is something else entirely. It's not what you think. This might surprise you. It's more powerful than your resume. Your most powerful interview tool has nothing to do with your qualifications. I'll show you exactly what you have that's your most powerful asset in a minute. When a hiring manager interviews 10 candidates with similar qualifications, the decision almost never comes down to who has the better resume, who has the better qualifications or education, or even who has the most experience. More often than not, it comes down to who made them feel something. Who did they connect with the most? Or who can they see as a part of the team? When they narrow down a list of candidates and decide who they want to bring back in and move forward with, these are the questions they're really asking themselves. That may sound odd. I know. Stay with me. It's you. Uniquely you. There's research out of Stanford University showing that people retain only 5 to 10% of information when it's presented as statistics alone, but 65 to 70% when that same information is paired with a story. Your stories, the ones you share with a hiring manager, make all the difference. Now think about what you're doing in an interview. You're reciting your experience, listing your accomplishments, answering their questions as accurately and professionally as you can. Here's the kicker. So is every other qualified candidate in that waiting room. That's mundane, routine, average, boring. You don't stand out. What most are not doing, sharing a compelling story. What no one else is doing, sharing your story. What I've seen work time and time again to help candidates remain memorable long after the interview and compel a hiring manager is how well a candidate articulates and shares a relevant, insightful story. Here's why. The hiring manager isn't just asking, can this person do the job? They're asking, do I want to work with this person every day? Are they teachable? Do they have a good attitude? These questions get answered by connection, and this connection happens best through stories. This is what makes you stand out long after the interview is done. When it comes time to make a decision, they push you up to the top of the conversation behind closed doors. Like this. Michael got hired, but was not an ideal candidate. He looked okay on paper, he interviewed fairly well, but he was not the most qualified candidate. He didn't have the most industry experience or all of the desired certifications for their ideal candidate. But he did show kindness to the front desk receptionist, thanking her for taking the time to bring him a cup of coffee. She was having a particularly difficult day. His genuine gratitude meant a lot. But that was not what got him the job. There was something else. He held the door for women entering the office, not knowing one would be his future boss's manager. The deep significance in his story is what he shared about why he was looking. He was laid off when he had to take additional time away from work to care for his ailing mother. He had used all of his vacation time and PTO and needed more time until the doctor said she could stay on her own again. His prior boss couldn't hold the job for him. The hiring manager had experienced something similar with his mother and truly knew how this felt. This story, combined with his kindness, great attitude, and that he was in the same branch of service as his new boss and knew some of the same people, this is what put him ahead of more qualified applicants. These characteristics stood out when it came time to make a choice of who to hire. It's why they chose him. When telling your story, be genuine. This is key. It's not about performing or being relatable. You should not fabricate a story, and if you try, most of the time it will backfire sooner or later. Before your next interview, do this one thing. Look up the hiring manager on LinkedIn. Find one genuine point of connection, a shared employer, a cause they care about, a branch of service. Just one. This is the first item in what I call the connection checklist, a framework that helps you walk in already knowing what to connect on before your qualifications ever come up. The full connection checklist is in the book, but the LinkedIn research before every interview? That starts now. Only a small percentage of candidates walk in knowing how to make a genuine connection quickly, which means when you do, and you do it well, you're in a completely different category than everyone else in that waiting room. You now have this recruiter secret most candidates never get. Next up, what if you could start building that connection before you ever apply? What if a hiring manager already recognized your name when your resume landed in their inbox? That is not luck. That is a deliberate strategy, and almost no one is using it the right way. It's what most people get completely wrong about social media and job searching. I'm showing you exactly what works instead. That is where we're going next. You now know who you are looking for. You know the must-hire secret, the funding round, when a company has to hire. Your resume shows them that you're their problem solver. These change everything about how you show up, because here is what changes next. The moment you know who you want to work for, your LinkedIn profile stops being a digital resume and becomes a targeted asset. And right now, most candidates are using it completely backwards. 91% of hiring managers are checking candidates' profiles before they ever schedule an interview. 70% make a decision about you based on what they find. Not your resume, your profile, your activity, your headline. And 57% have passed on a candidate because of what they found. That's not a warning to be afraid of. That's an opportunity. Because most of your competition isn't thinking strategically about any of this. And that's what you can use to your advantage. That means the game starts before you apply. And most of your competition doesn't know that yet. Most people treat LinkedIn like a digital resume, a static archive of where they've been. That is a mistake. LinkedIn is a discovery platform. It is a search engine. And just like Google, it rewards profiles that are optimized for how people actually search. If your profile does not include the right terms in the right places, you will not show up. It does not matter how qualified you are. Invisible equals unemployed. So we are doing two things here. 1, optimizing your profile to be found, and 2, setting it up to convert when people land on it. This way, they already know who you are when you express interest in a job, and they feel compelled to push you up in the hiring process. But it's not the way you think. This is not about gaming the algorithm. This is about being genuinely present in the right places before anyone else thinks to look. It's real, genuine, organic engagement. That's what makes you stand out on social media. But before you engage with anyone, your profile needs to be ready. Because every message you send invites someone to check you out. Let's make sure what they see works in your favor. What most are doing wrong. 79% of job seekers say they use social media to find jobs. But most of them are scrolling job postings like one would a few videos. Then connecting with colleagues or their best friends. Same thing they're doing on their favorite friends or community platform. This one, the expectation is different. Here, they want a much bigger result. Your headline is the most important real estate on your entire profile. It appears everywhere, in search results, when you comment, when you connect. It is your 220-character elevator pitch. Most people waste it by listing their job title. Marketing professional at X company seeking opportunities. Boring. generic, forgettable. Here's what works, showing what problem you solve, who you help, the value you create. Like this, marketing manager, increased ROI by 40% in 6 months, expert in digital strategy. One says, hire me. The other says, here's what I can do for you. Your headline, summary, and activity are all advertisements, marketing who you are and what problem you can solve for them. This is how you stop the scroll. Most people either skip the About section entirely or fill it with corporate jargon. Do neither. Here is the structure. Hook, story, achievements with numbers. Tell them what to do next. Start with a hook. A problem you solve slightly different than you headline, but similar. One sentence that makes them keep reading. Then explain what you do and why it matters. The impact it had in your own voice. Then results. Finally, a next step. What do you want them to do? And the one thing almost nobody does? Write in first person. Use I. This is your profile. Own it. After you've built that presence, you're not a stranger anymore. You send a connection request that references their actual work, not a generic, I'd love to connect. Something that acknowledges a challenge you've noticed they're navigating. Here's why this works. You're not leading with need, you're leading with value. And that changes everything about how you're perceived. Now, by the time a hiring manager clicks through, they're already impressed before they read a word of your experience or resume. Review your tagged photos, past posts, your full activity. What they see from the moment you begin interacting with them is part of your first impression. Make sure it's working for you. Once you've built a presence, you're not a stranger anymore. Here's the 4-week blueprint. The first and second week, follow and observe. Follow target companies and hiring managers. Study what they post, what they care about, what challenges they're navigating. The second and third week, there is a crossover. Engage with value. Comment thoughtfully. Add a real perspective. Ask a smart question. Share a relevant experience. Not just, great post. Week 3, connect strategically. Send a request that references their actual work. Not generic, something real. Week 3 to 4, share relevant content. One piece directly useful to them. A trend, an insight, a solution. Lead with their problem, not your need. By the time you're ready to send your resume, they already know your name and that you understand the problems they're facing. That's not luck, that's strategy. Here's the part most candidates completely underestimate. What makes you stand out long after the interview has nothing to do with your resume. That got you in the room. This is what keeps you there. You can give a flawless, textbook answer to every single interview question and still be completely blacklisted by the hiring committee before you even pull out of the parking lot. I've watched brilliant, accomplished, highly qualified professionals fall completely flat behind closed doors. Not because they do not know their industry, but because they treat an interview like a police interrogation instead of an alignment session. Companies evaluate your competence, cultural fit, and emotional control long before you answer a behavioral question. Like we saw with Michael, the exact way you interact with the receptionist, who might be the company owner's niece, to the subconscious signals you broadcast in your first 7 seconds, the gatekeepers are judging you. We all wonder what goes on behind closed doors, after the interview. When we find out, or are reminded, you stay or get back on top. Let me show you exactly what we're looking at. You have 7 seconds to make a first impression. 7. We subconsciously assess competence, trustworthiness, social or cultural fit. All of this is evaluated before you say a single word. First impressions cannot be undone, no matter how impressive your qualifications are. How you're viewed in person demonstrates your trustworthiness, whether you'd fit on their team. Here's the rule of thumb. Dress one step above what you see in their social media and office photos. Not overdone, just one notch above the standard. And here is why this matters more than you might think. How we dress affects how we sound and communicate. When you feel your best, it transfers. When you've been out of work for a while and your confidence has taken a hit, the way you dress is one of the fastest ways to restore it. When you are perceived as more confident, it is easy for a manager to already see you succeeding in the role. The goal is the best polished version of yourself. Not overdressed, not underdressed. One step above their standard. But not so much that you look like you've outclassed the hiring team. Once you're in the interview, remember this. We've read your resume. We're not looking for a recitation of it. Here's what we actually want to know: how you can help us. And when it comes to questions about yourself, these are not throwaway questions. Tell me about yourself. We want to know what drives you, what motivates you to solve the problems you solve. This is where your connection story comes to life. What's your greatest weakness? If you say, "I'm a perfectionist," or "I care too much," we've heard it 1,000 times. Share a real weakness. Show how you recognized it and what you specifically did to grow. Why do you want to work here? Canned answers make you forgettable. Use your research. Be specific. Use the personal connection and research you've done to answer this one. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Don't say, "I want your job." Say this instead: "I'd love to build that plan with you to best support what's already in motion." Your answers have to show not just competence, but self-awareness and genuine interest in their specific challenges. Companies are asking additional, critical questions right now, and most candidates aren't prepared. How do you navigate remote communication? Document results, flag problems early, default to over-communication. How do you approach work-life sustainability? Not work-life balance, sustainability. They want self-aware people who won't burn out. How do you work with AI tools? They want to know you've engaged with it, not that you fear it or over-rely on it, and can share how it impacts your role specifically. Have a real answer. Pro tip: if you're not fully aware, research how the specific company you are interviewing approaches AI before you walk in. Come in knowing more than they expected. That alone puts you in a completely different category. And here is something that will make every answer in this section land 22 times more memorably. Share a short story with your answer, not a long one. Just one specific moment that shows how you actually handled it. 22 times more memorable. That's not a guess, that's Stanford research. Next, the thing we all know to do, but is easy to skip. Before we get into strategic follow-up, I want you to sit with something for a second. You just did the hard part. You prepared, you showed up, you answered the hard questions. And regardless of how it went, these are skills that get sharper every single time you do this. Feel good about that. It's important. As we move on, here's where a surprising number lose ground they earned. They walk out of that interview and go silent. No follow-up, no final impression. They leave the outcome entirely in someone else's hands. The follow-up email is not optional. It is part of the interview. It's your last chance to be specific, personal, and memorable in a moment when most of your competition goes quiet. Let me show you exactly how to stand out with this. I'm sure you've heard and probably done this before. Send a thank you email within 24 hours. I advise this to every candidate I work with. The funny thing is, about 50% still don't do it. The ones who do, they're remembered. If they do, here's what most send: a generic template that could apply to any interview. What actually works: reference something specific from your conversation. Reaffirm your interest. Connect it back to a challenge they shared with you. Keep it to 3 or 4 sentences. Make it feel written, not templated. Specific, personal, memorable. This is the final impression you leave. Make it count. Bonus points if you craft an actual handwritten thank you note. You can drop it back off by the office so you're not depending on the mail to get it there in time. Regardless how you send it, when you do, mention something specific and unique. This makes you more impactful. Here's what you now have that most candidates do not: a profile that stops the scroll and shows up in search. A system for getting on a hiring manager's radar before you ever apply. The knowledge that the interview starts in the parking lot. 7 seconds to make a first impression, and now you know exactly how to use them. The questions they always ask, and the answers that make you memorable. But here's what all of this builds toward. The moment you have done everything right, the resume, the research, the interview, the follow-up, and they call with an offer. This is where many give back everything they just earned, in one conversation, without realizing it. The offer and negotiation. This is the part that causes the most stress, most palms to sweat. even seasoned career professionals. The offer, more specifically, negotiating the offer. And I promised you at the beginning of this masterclass that I would share something recruiters truly keep to themselves. The exact strategy that took a second choice candidate from $92,000 to $100,000. We are there. That is exactly where we are going next. Accepting the first salary offer a company puts in front of you is not just you being polite. It is the single most expensive mistake of your career, and most people make it without realizing it. 70% of employers expect candidates to negotiate. 70%. But fewer than 40% actually do. That gap costs people tens of thousands of dollars. Money that compounds over every raise for the rest of their tenure. Welcome to the section I promised you at the very beginning of this masterclass. This is the one. You did it! You got a verbal offer. Yet, it feels like you're on a seesaw. You're ecstatic that you got the offer, but now it's time to negotiate. You should always negotiate. Always. But I found that many seasoned professionals get all the way through the hiring process only to feel stuck. Many dislike negotiation. It feels slimy or manipulative. But what if I told you there's a way to negotiate that makes hiring managers like you more, not less? It's all in how you ask. When the offer comes, do not negotiate on the spot. Express enthusiasm, then ask for time. Can I have until, mention a date, to review the full package? They will almost always say yes. That pause is where the power of your negotiation starts. Here's what no one tells you. The initial offer is not the finish line. It's the opening move, an invitation to the table to show your stuff. Every hiring manager worth their title builds a range into that number. They're expecting you to negotiate. The best candidates always do. And when you don't, they're not impressed. For many managers, it's a bit of a test. They're looking to see how you'll handle a difficult situation, that you are able to stand your ground while arriving at a solution where both parties are happy. Whether working with colleagues, customers, or vendors, how you'll handle pressure from upper management at a critical point. So if negotiating is not your comfort zone, let's fix that. Let me tell you about Jen. Jen was the second choice. The first choice came back with a number that was way too high for their skill set. So Jen got the call, and she ended up with more than the first choice was even asking for. Here's what she did. One tool she used that really made a difference for her was to fully prepare for the offer with research. When her offer was $92,000, she was definitely looking for more. She didn't come back with a round number. This part was inspired by an FBI negotiator, Chris Voss, from his book Never Split the Difference. She came back asking for $94,225. Not $95,000, not $94,000, $94,225. Exact. Calculated. Every number traceable. Every ask justifiable. And it told them everything they needed to know about who they were hiring. They returned with an offer of $100,000. Through the negotiation, she showed where she could even bring more value than they expected. They were excited that she could fill in an additional gap at the company. That's what preparation and confident negotiation won her. Now let me show you the difference between negotiating like an amateur and negotiating like a professional. Amateur move. I need at least $92,000 or I'm walking. That's not negotiating. That's an ultimatum. And ultimatums damage relationships before day one even begins. Here's how a pro sounds. I'm genuinely excited about this role. Based on comparable positions in this market, inflation projections for the next 2 quarters, I have 8 years building books of business in exactly the territory you're trying to develop. I was hoping we could talk about something in the $95,000 to $100,000 range. Is there flexibility with the rate? Same ask, completely different energy. You're collaborative and prepared. Now you're inviting a conversation, not starting a confrontation. We know that salary is one part of the hiring package. Before you push hard on your base rate, pause for a minute. Look at the full picture. Health coverage, retirement matching percentage, paid time off, remote work flexibility, professional development, equity, bonuses. Sometimes a company that can't budge on salary can absolutely move on everything else. A lower base with bonuses and exceptional benefits genuine work-life balance and real growth, that can outperform a bigger number at a company paying top dollar but quietly destroying your health and your time. It comes down to this: know your must-haves, know your nice-to-have preferences, know what you can be flexible on. Negotiate the whole package. Before the offer stage, most of us have done this. Pull market data from Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Salary.com, PayScale. Know the range. Get an idea what competitors are offering or have posted. Calculate your total compensation value, not just salary, everything. Practice your negotiation script, out loud, in the mirror, to your partner, until it sounds like you, not a rehearsed speech. And here's a pro move most people miss. Don't be the first to give a number. Let them show their hand. If you name your ceiling and they accept instantly, you were worth more, but you just closed the negotiation. If the offer is fair, and you can say yes with real enthusiasm, say yes. This is not only about winning, it is about starting a relationship the right way, where you are valued and you feel it. But if the offer is genuinely below market value and there is zero flexibility with the other benefits, trust what you see. Consider this: were they dismissive? Did they pressure you to decide in 24 hours? Were they annoyed that you asked for a different rate? Write down everything you observed, because how a company negotiates is how a company operates. That is not paranoia. This is them showing you what it will be like to work there. A company typically puts its best foot forward in the hiring process to attract employees. Don't take an offer just because. Understand what you're actually worth. Here is what I want you to hold on to. They chose you. Out of every resume in the pile, every candidate they interviewed, every person they considered, they decided you are the right person for this role. You are not begging for a favor. You are finalizing a business deal between two parties who both want it to work. So prepare like a professional. Research like you mean it. And when the moment comes, negotiate with confidence. Not cockiness, confidence. Because you have earned your seat at that table. Now own it. There is one more thing candidates have asked me for. Check this out. I saved the best for last. Let me show you what makes all of this work even faster. Most who go through the MasterClass, understand the strategies, are excited to implement what we covered with one consistent feedback request. This is great, but I need help actually doing it. Without practical tools to put this all in place, it still feels like a bit of an uphill battle. Don't worry, I've gotcha. They're right. Knowing the strategy is one thing. Having the right tools to execute it quickly and with confidence for real transformation is something else entirely. Let me show you what will accelerate your entire process. Take a quick look with me at this page. At the top, you'll see the book, A Recruiter's Secrets. This is where everything starts. Grab your copy here. Next, you'll see the complete job search tools. These are built specifically to help you execute the strategies from the book faster, removing guesswork. The job search bundle was built with you in mind. The reverse engineering resume system takes everything we covered in section 1 and walks you through it step by step, so your resume lands in front of a human, not a trash folder. The application tracker, recruiter resources, the AI leverage tools show you how to use AI at every stage without sounding like a robot wrote your resume. Get this. The employer dashboard video, a tool that shows you exactly what recruiters see when they search for candidates, so you can use that information for an even bigger advantage. LinkedIn strategy and full recruiter resource list. Everything together. And book included. Link is in the description. If you want to walk into your next interview the way Michael walked into his, already knowing how to connect, what to say, which of your stories will land, what they are really looking for, the Interview Mastery Bundle is what makes that easy. The Win the Interview and Story prompts help you build your 3 core connection stories before you ever walk in the door, so they sound organic, not rehearsed. The 200-plus recruiter secret interview questions come with responses and exactly why they work, crafted from years of experience. The swipe files give you word-for-word templates for every written touchpoint, connection requests, follow-up emails, thank you notes, done-for-you templates, fully customizable, of course, so they sound like you. And the LinkedIn strategy is in here too, because showing up on their radar before sending a resume is half the battle. Can you bundle these two? Absolutely. Here's the Interview Mastery Bundle. You'll see each of these in tools combined in a bundle price for you. Grab these now. Prices can change quickly. Don't forget your free negotiation script. Here is what you now know that almost no one else does. Your resume is not a job description. It is proof of problems you've solved and what you are worth. A human sees it and is compelled to reach out. You're not chasing job boards. Instead, watching for the signal that a company has to hire. The funding round. The moment a company has to fulfill its obligations. You now know how to connect with hiring managers as a problem solver. So you're not a stranger when your resume arrives. In the interview, you are not reciting your resume. You are telling the story that makes a hiring manager lean forward and think, this is the one. And when the offer comes, you do not accept the first number. You come back with $94,225. Exact. Calculated. Every number traceable. That is not luck. That is a system. And you now have it. I'm here for you. You've got this. Given the number of layoffs and people searching right now, there's a strong possibility that you may know of someone else who could benefit from this information. Share this video with them. I'm creating more content like this. If there is something specific you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. I know the pain of a humiliating layoff, what it's like to be tossing and turning at 2 in the morning wondering what I was doing wrong. I want to help as many people as possible to not be in pain like that. The recruiter secrets have always existed. Living with recruiters who didn't believe in the value of sharing this information. Since I disagreed, I created this for you. You are no longer playing the game without knowing the rules. Grab your copy of the book in the link below. I look forward hearing of your success. You have earned your seat at that table. Go get what you are worth.